To Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois. She's a member of the Committee on Veterans Affairs and also served honorably in Iraq. Senator, I do want to talk to you about the firings at the Department of Veterans Affairs, but I do also want to get your reaction to President Trump calling the Ukrainian President Zelensky a, quote, dictator and suggesting over the last few days that this war was started by Ukraine.
I mean, he is parroting Vladimir Putin's talking points, and it's a complete betrayal of the Ukrainian people, of American leadership and our values. I never thought in the 23 years I served in the military that I would hear the commander-in-chief of the United States military parroting Russian talking points. And really, you know, it is astonishing to me that he would also betray our allies in Europe in this way and pave the way for Putin. He essentially has just surrendered to Putin, and that simply is not acceptable.
On to the topic at hand. The Department of Veterans Affairs has rehired roughly a dozen people who worked on the Veterans Crisis Hotline after the department fired about 1,000 workers last week. Now, you think that these 11 or 12 workers were targeted because of their probationary status, even though they'd been in their jobs for a while, but because of their hiring preference given to veterans. Is that what happened? Did you get any answers earlier today when you asked about this?
We're still waiting our way through it. I do know that what happens a lot is that federal government, one agency will hire a veteran from a different agency using veterans preference, because they can then hire them on. Basically, they're shifting from one federal job to another federal job, and so then they get labeled as probationary. So at least two of the veterans were from Illinois. One, I believe, had 5 years of federal service. The other had something like 18 years of federal service, and yet they were fired. And I don't know how many more across the nation were fired, but at least about a dozen that I know of personally that came, that I've heard of through my offices. And they were told, at least I was told, that they were being reinstated. But as of this morning, they had not regained access to their employee portals yet. And remember that these are the folks who are answering the crisis hotline that veterans who are contemplating suicide call. And it is really unconscionable that they would lay off these particular employees, and because their job is so vital. So
the directive being given by the Office of Personnel Management, put out there by DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, from Elon Musk or whoever's running it, is that probationary employees should be laid off unless they're providing critical services. It's hard to think of something more critical than people trying to prevent our veterans from taking their own lives.
Exactly. And this is the problem you have when you put, folks who don't know what they're talking about in charge of this process. Elon Musk doesn't understand veterans. He doesn't understand the Department of Veterans Affairs or the services it provides. And then when you have a bunch of coders, 20-year-old coders that you put in there and say, okay, just search for the word probationary and fire everyone that's probationary without going through a proper review process, this is what you get. They did something similar with the air traffic control system. Just so you know, a couple of weeks ago, they sent a letter to air traffic controllers right when there was that crash here in Washington, D.C., telling them, go ahead and quit your jobs, inviting air traffic controllers, when we have air traffic controller shortage, to quit their jobs. And now they've done it with veterans. And so we know about the hotline, folks, but what this is going to do with the Department of Veterans Affairs in particular is a lot of these folks actually work in the benefits portion of VA, where they help veterans access their benefits. And so veterans are going to see their access to their benefits that they've earned slowed down because the people working to help them get that access have just been laid off.
Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat of Illinois, thank you, and thank you for your service.